in Philly, there has been violent protests. Some of the violence from protesters, some of the most disturbing violence I've seen has been by police officers attacking people who just accidentally drove down the wrong street. Parents with children in the car. They smashed these car windows with their batons. I mean, it is really one of the most disturbing things I've seen. Like, this is the type of stuff that you like, wait, am I looking at, riot police in like, Belarus who are attacking and brutalizing protesters? This is one of the more scary police brutality because it's a swarm of cops. I don't think we have that footage, but you can find it online. But here is Walter Wallace, young son, sharing what his dad meant to him. This is Walter Wallace's son.
Can you tell us about your dad?
Okay, so we need to always hang out. We need to always go places. And we need to always play around.
That's all right, son. Keep it going. Keep going. Be strong. Hey, baby. Be strong. You can do it.
And he need to always teach me how to be a man.
Alhamdulillah. Praise God. Praise God. That's right. That's right.
And these white racist cops got my own dad.
I'm sorry. He's a man's man.
And black life still matter.
Amen.
It's good, man.
It's good, cousin. Stay strong, man.
Good love, man.
Yes, King.
That's it.
Horrible. Horrible. Just horrible.
That's a strong kid, though.
Yep.
He seems like he's going to grow up to be a freedom fighter.
Yep.
He already is, actually.
Here is a message of de-escalation in Philly. Here, play this clip.
To the police, we should say.
Calling for de-escalate, don't shoot is the sign there. I mean, I am of the mind that that the violence, broadly speaking, is not helpful to the movement. But it's also when the police become violent and they instigate these things, there's a certain inevitability it's going to happen.
And I think that message is specifically like to cops in those situations, like de-escalate the situation, stop basically, which cops are horrible at doing throughout this entire summer, is escalating situations.
Yeah. And they're paid. That is their job, is to de-escalate these situations, not to escalate them. And the problem is that sometimes they're incentivized to escalate. Particularly in this era where there is even less accountability for these police forces than there has been in the past. It's impossible, and I honestly don't know. But how police forces would have reacted to, and there's so many ifs, and it's such a hypothetical, but a Department of Justice that was aggressively going in and taking over police departments, investigating police departments, bringing police officers up on federal charges. Everything that we've heard from listeners who are former members of or active police officers, they always cite the idea that you have prosecutors who will not pursue and hold police to account. And therefore, police have a license and they know that they can get away with this stuff. I mean, undoubtedly, there's like cultural problems in the police forces. Undoubtedly, there's, individuals who are problematic. But broadly speaking, if you do not hold people who you arm and not just arm, but just provide armaments to, if you do not hold them to account in the way that they behave with that stuff, then they're just going to continue to get more and more aggressive with people. And this is obviously there's got to be broad reform and a changing of a structuring of the police, but just like on this basic level, you unshackle people. I mean, look at what happened this is exactly how we got the torture regime in Iraq, right? Like, we should have never been there in the first place. We should have never illegally invaded that country. We should have never illegally occupied that country. But there was a specific message sent to the military, to the intelligence services serving there. The gloves are off. Your shackles are off. Go to town. And the military is far more disciplined than the cops are. Just as a I think, as a basic fact in terms of training and whatnot. Once you basically even just say, like, we're not going to hold anybody to account, it naturally occurs. It just like that's what you get. And people know that.
Well, why would they hold the police to account if they're doing exactly what the police are intended to do, which is to oppress marginalized populations in this country? I
mean, there has been a difference between the way that the Department of Justice has approached police departments over the years. There's definitively been a difference. I mean, that's why Jeff Sessions made a point when he got into office to pull back all the consent decrees, to pull back all of the involvement of the DOJ and police departments and say, we're not going to question how you police. If that was already the case, he didn't need to do that. He didn't need to send a signal to the police if they already knew that. I mean, there's no doubt.
Things could always be worse.
What's that?
Things could always be worse, for sure.
Yeah. But
that doesn't mean that they were getting better in any substantial way. Like,
no,
we've gone over it on this show, the incidents of police officers being prosecuted for malfeasance or whatever is so low. And there are so many structural barriers to it happening. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing to pursue. I think we can use multiple frameworks here, but I really think the need to defund is the most important thing of all.
I agree.
We don't know what the outcome would be if we had more prosecution of cops. For other crimes, it does not make other crimes go down, the rates at which people are prosecuted and jailed for them. But the most important thing to understand is that the police exist as an instrument of class rule, which is also racialized very heavily in the US. And, long term, the only thing we can do really that's going to get the outcome we want is to shrink their power.
Right. And we've said that multiple times. Long term, the only way to do this is to move funds away from them and into other services. But short term, what we can do on January 20th of next year is to have a Department of Justice that sends out the signal that you are going to be held to account. Now, I think I would argue that the reason why accountability, first off, I don't think that there's actually, a lot of crimes go unsolved. And a lot of crimes, in many ways, are constructed by society that make it inevitable that people are going to trip them up. I think within the context of policing police forces, holding them to account would have an impact. Just even taking them off the streets would have an impact on some level. It's not fully sufficient, but it is a step that can be implemented months from now. And and at least according to the police officers that have weighed in on it on this program, it would have enough impact.
Well, I mean, one of their main powers is the power to kill people and not be held accountable to it. Like not all their power is simply material. And I do think, we need to act officially on that measure. And like ultimately, we need to take away their funding too.
I mean, I would like to see it tried on a large scale for sure. Cause you know what, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the outcome would actually be, make some dent in the amount of people who get killed, and not just killed, right? Because, those are obviously the most dramatic and gripping cases, but there are a lot of people whose lives are being stolen, just locked away in prison. And that's a huge problem too.
And I would even go past that, like these jump outs, like, the protests are in many respects, like triggered, if you will, or the catalyst for these protests are situations where you have Black people killed at the hands of the police. But that is just like the straw that breaks the camel's back in terms of sending people into the streets. You have a whole regime of policing that is where, the killing of Black individuals is just, the part that sticks out from the water, I think. The idea of having to grow up with jump outs or stop and frisk, or just the understanding that as you walk through society, when you see a cop, instead of feeling like we're safe, your heart starts to beat a little bit faster because you are threatened by the existence of that cop. Mm-hmm. And that is a unique experience to you because of where you live or because of the color of your skin. It is, I think that like, that just drags on and on and on without any, and there's no way to hold police departments to account for that. I mean, you can have, stop and frisk is illegal and this and that, but you cannot fundamentally change the dynamic that you're talking about, which is that for large segments of the population, police are there to maintain control. And then, for other segments of the population, they're like, oh, we're there to protect you. And that is a dynamic that is, problematic. And you need to, begin to chip away at that in any way that you can. And I think there's multiple ways of doing that. I think, part of that again is like it's changing laws, holding police to account, it is taking money away from their department and shrinking their portfolio significantly and dealing with a lot of underlying problems that are, so that the dynamic isn't there to be set up, that the police are needed to control people or desired to control people. I mean, so all of that is part of it.